Yes, let's bring in veteran journalist Mr. Segun Aderiye. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
And just
He's not going to talk environment.
The backstory to having Reverend Aderiye from WNTV. A lot of people, young people might not know.
Explain what, because you have to help them explain.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have Reverend Aderiye back, Jeffrey. You want to put the question
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Good morning. I can hear you clear.
Okay, we're just trying to backtrack to history. For the Gen Zs who don't know, you lived through the times, and if there is anyone to speak to freedom through time, you're the one that is the right person to answer that question as far as journalism is concerned in Nigeria. So my question is, looking at where we're coming from to where we are at the moment, tell us what you've observed in terms of press freedom.
Yes, press freedom in the libertarian era was just a given. So much latitude, so much freedom was given to the media, to the press, to the journalists at that time. But unfortunately, over time, journalists seem to abuse or seem to have abused that privilege, that goodwill, that way, because they were now overdoing things. They were getting involved in libel. They were getting involved in character assassination. You know, so many of those things that normally you would not expect a journalist to do. They were taking sides. And that was the genesis of the what we now call gagging of the press. The government, the people, everybody now became suspicious. And even the legislatures, they now begin to see what they could do, you know, to cut our wings, as it were. So that's by the way of history. But in Nigeria, it's not been so bad. Initially, before independence and a little after independence, it wasn't quite easy. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chiwawulowo, Nahoro, and the rest of them, they didn't find it easy because it was a fight, a direct fight against the colonialists then. They also didn't take quite kindly to all the criticisms of the media, of the press at the time. So after gaining independence, there was this honeymoon, I would call it, you know. Everybody wanted to put hands together, put hands on the table to be able to see what we can make of our new independence. So some little bit of latitude. But later, like I said, you give somebody 1 inch and it goes a mile. And when that happens, then you begin to look for how to cut the wings, you know, of such people. So I think that's what has happened generally by way of history to press freedom in Nigeria.
And I'm glad you referred to, you know, some of the exploits of the press in our history, in our historical development. You know, and I could also mention the daring of some of our founding fathers, Herbert Macaulay, who challenged the colonial masters with certain publications. As a matter of fact, the press is credited, you know, for helping Nigeria, you know, to earn its hard-earned democracy, you know, given its work of putting the military, you know, to account. But as we progress in our democracy, do you see that loss of boldness and daring from the press, you know, with investigative reporting to engender some form of accountability from the elected and appointed government representatives?
It's not going to be that smooth, but I can see that pockets of, you know, broadcast stations, pockets of journalists on their own personally who want to stand out, who want to push, who want to also practice the profession the way it ought to be. But the unfortunate thing is, such people will be in the minority. It won't be a general thing. And you know why I'm saying that? The profession seems to have been so bastardized over the years. Politicians have had incursions into the profession. Even the, what do you call it? People who are coming out to establish broadcast stations. That one is also suspect because many of them, I want to say, don't really have a business, in that kind of business. They're just there for politics, for their personal interest to make money. And when you have such a basis or such a background, you are not going to get the best in terms of the hard push that you expect a journalist to have, in matters of public affairs, in matters of governance, and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm saying it's not going to be smooth, unless, of course, a lot of things are set right. I just talked about ownership now, and I can also talk about funding of the media stations. How strong is a station to fully back a journalist to go on full blast investigative journalism? How ready is any station to fully back such a journalist in terms of funding? Because all the things he needs to do, everywhere he needs to go to gather the information and so on and so forth, all these things are not cheap. And if you don't have a committed organization that is ready to back you through and through, you are not going to get the kind of hard push, hardcore journalists that we're talking about. And there are so many other factors too. The society is very corrupt. And the other day, one of our colleagues was saying, look, journalists, a country begets the kind of journalism it gets. I mean, it deserves the kind of journalism it gets. If your society is corrupt,
right,
judiciary is corrupt, legislature is corrupt, executives is corrupt, then I don't know how that journalist is going to survive under that kind of situation, unless this guy has made up his mind as a single individual. And it's like you are ready to commit suicide.
Well,
That's
Reverend,
the way it is in Nigeria.
quite
Now,
instructive.
you are ready.
Pardon me, quite instructive what you've reeled out, something to really chew on. And I must say that as we talk about all of the hard issues, this opportunity to speak with you, I don't want it to go without drinking from your well of experience. I mean, from WNTV to NTA. Can you hear me, Reverend? Okay, I was going to just quickly.
Yes, I'm managing to get what you're saying.
Okay, I just wanted to quickly speak to your experience because it's really rich. So I don't want this experience to go, or this opportunity to go, without touching on. There was a time you said you almost died in Liberia because you've covered a lot. So can you share with us some of those experiences you had that point to what journalism ought to be? Okay, Reverend Aderi, if you can hear me.
Reverend Aderi, can you hear us?
Oh dear. Okay, we'll try to reconnect, but he has such a rich...
This thing is cutting. It's breaking.
Yes, I imagine it's the connection with you, the data that is not really working quite well. But we'll try to work on that, Reverend Aderi, as we wind down on this conversation, because it's not every time you get the opportunity to speak with a veteran who's been there from sort of like the beginning up until this point. So, Reverend, can you hear me? Let me try this one more time.
Yes.
Finally. So quickly tell us, as we wind down, you were talking about your experience in Liberia, how you almost died. And we just want to drink from some of those experiences, what journalism ought to be like, some of those extreme experiences you had, Reverend.
Quite a whole lot of them. seasickness when we were going by sea, which lasted like 2-3 days. That one aside. Then having to go into the lion's den, as it were. Yomi Johnson was one of the biggest warlords at that time. We decided to go to his base, Caldwell base, yes. And we saw this guy practically shoot people dead. He would just line them up and spray them to death. That was the kind of lion's den we were. And we were told that here is a man that once that thing gets in his head, he doesn't care who you are, what are you shot? And so we were with him. And at some point, he was getting a little bit nervous. I don't know what happened. And at that time, I was almost going to piss in my pants because I knew the kind of character he was. But somehow, I think the guy is a musician of some sort. He loves a lot of music. And there was this piano that was there right in his sitting room. And then I decided to go and strike a chord on the piano. And lo and behold, we started singing. When the Saints, that was a song. I tried to play on the piano, and the guy was lost. His brain started coming back. It was like in the days of old when David was playing to King David to bring him to sanity. So that was one of the escapes that we had, or some of the brushes we had with death. Thank God we came back alive from that lion's death. Then, of course, we were at Speak Spain Airport that time, and we wanted to inspect the place. It was in shambles. The airport had been shut, had been closed down, and we went on visitation to the place, and only for us to be hearing gunshots, bullets flying across our heads. In fact, that was the day I felt I was dead. But thank God, we also escaped that one. You want another one?
No, Reverend.
We need to do a sit down with you, Reverend, so we can walk through these experiences. Wow.
Very dangerous expedition.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Reverend. As you said, maybe we have a special sit down with you to walk us through all of this, because it looks like some modern journalism is more like luxury journalism when we see what some of you had to go through.
Yes, so armchair journalism. Armchair journalism.
Thank you so much, Reverend Shegwadiri, a veteran journalist. He's gone.
I hope you will find time to read my autobiography.
Absolutely.
To prepare to meet me full blast later.
That'll be an honor.
It will be an honor, sir. Thank you so much, Reverend. Thank you for coming on the program. We thank you for your service to the country. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. You are doing a good job.